Yeah. Also, just quickly on that. Yeah, I've had a friend on Tipping Point. If I didn't think it could get
Could have
any
been
better.
Tipping Point. I don't know. They're all the same to me. I don't watch
I
them.
feel like I'd do better at Tipping Point than
Yeah.
trying to roll on the chase.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, you ready to start?
Yay.
Okay, Erica Katsambis. Have I pronounced that right?
You
Yes.
have.
Superb. First step done. So we spoke probably like 2 weeks ago now. As a precursor to this, if
Yeah.
we can call it a precursor, all around. And I kind of gave you some context, but for everyone listening, we've run about 100 plus interviews with marketing kind of experts, and I had the epiphany around last month to start interviewing sales leaders, because the whole concept of ABM or ABX or whatever you want to call it is very much kind of focused on, kind of going to market together. So I'm very excited to have you on, Erica, and it'd be good as like a precursor to all of that, and I've prepped some questions here to hear a bit about your experience and to date, because I think you started in marketing as well, right?
I did. Firstly, I'm delighted to be here, so thank you for the invitation.
Nice.
I spent the first 15 years of my career in marketing, and my degree was in marketing, and I was obsessed with marketing. Probably as time went by, I realised that I was kind of being wheeled into the kind of the high stakes meetings to close deals, and I was using all my marketing capabilities, and I was helping win those deals. And
Nice.
It was around that point I got more and more into, I would say, account-based marketing, account-based sales, if you want to call it that, and realised that I was actually doing sales really at that point, and I was working in telecoms and working and selling to enormous either mobile operators or on the other side. So I've had both perspectives, being sold to and being and selling, which I think is fantastic in this world when you've got both lenses.
I think I prefer being sold to sometimes. It's easy, especially going around a conference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to do that first, because then you know what great looks like, and you know what bad looks like, and you know what not to replicate, and you can kind of perfect you can perfect what you need to do when you get on the other side. So I started off being sold to constantly. I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures in my career now. And it gave me the confidence then I moved from Orange as a mobile network, and then I was working with all the handset vendors at the time,
Right.
large and small. It's quite interesting, actually, when I think back to it, because it was when Nokia was the handset brand. We're going back a few decades now.
They still should be.
Yeah, I know. Well, the devices are still probably stronger and more durable than many out there now. But yeah, from that, there was in one of my companies, there was a strategy to kind of look at how we could elevate other brands beyond, so that we didn't have a massive dependency on Nokia. So I was elevating all these other brands up to help them. So it was kind of a bit of a coaching exercise. I was coaching them how to almost get into our portfolio at Orange. And then I jumped to the other side and I went into Sony Ericsson, another handset manufacturer at the time of the Sony Walkman. I don't know if you will even remember that either, Sam. But
the music player, no?
Well, not the music player. We then did a mobile phone that went nuts with the Walkman in it.
No, I had that phone, I think. Was it around...
A long time ago.
Yeah, okay, we won't go into the dates. I'm pretty sure I had it, yeah.
Yeah. And that just gave me the confidence to move to we called it the dark side at the time, but it gave them the confidence to move.
Nice. Awesome. That's a good bit of advice as well. You don't need to read sales books or marketing. Just go on LinkedIn, update your title to like CMO of something, and get loads of AI emails to see how bad the level of sales and pitching is, and learn that way as well. Right, Erica. So from kind of that as well, and through the lens of which I'm going to ask these questions, one thing that I'm really excited for this, is that we have in common, I think, I'm not going to insult you by saying I'm nowhere near as good as you, but like we're kind of quite scrappy, as in like we've joined, like we're trying to punch up above our weights, or like trying to implement systems is kind of what I got from our last conversation. So that's where I'm going to start. And so kind of like the first theme of questions that I've got is kind of building sales engines from zero, right? So building from scratch. So when you walk into a business, and I guess you can see this through your sales lens or your marketing lens, both are appropriate here. But if they've got no real sales infrastructure, where's the first place you start with approaching that?
Yeah, I have been in this situation a few times, and I love it. I love greenfield or turnaround type activity. I would caveat this by saying I have been in very, very well-oiled sales machine environments. Like I've seen, I think, the creme de la creme in terms of how it all works in large enterprise organizations such as Sony, such as Nokia, where we lived and breathed it, and it was, you know, there's multi-millions at risk if we didn't win or come out on top out of certain meetings. So I think I've seen it all before to know what great looks like.
Superb. You can work backwards.
Yeah, and exactly, almost work backwards from that. So when I go into an organization, the first thing I will do is not do anything, almost like just observe, watch, listen, look for the documentation that's available. And then depending on the environment, like sometimes I've got into an environment where it's the founder that's really been selling, or an environment where there is a sales team, but maybe they haven't been so effective, or they need some guidance, or they need some leadership to come into effect. But they are subject matter experts. They've got a lot of knowledge, even if it's not a well-oiled infrastructure. They'll know what the pain points are. They'll know what the problems are with the sales cycle. They'll know what's working and not working, and they'll know and they'll probably start to hint at things that start to reveal to you that there are gaps in the portfolio, or there's gaps in process, or gaps in knowledge or skill set. The most valuable is if you can get to the customer or get to a set of prospects.
Yes.
So looking at the existing pipeline, or the existing, if there are any customers that have been signed, having spending time with them or being in those meetings and understanding, why did they buy? What value do they think that's been brought? I think they're probably the two most important, and what helped move them over the line. So yeah, it's almost like a very non-judgmental detective work, I would say. And you have to be non-judgmental because these people have been in there doing what they're doing, sometimes with limited resource, sometimes with limited knowledge. And yeah, you just want to go in and help them and help accelerate and move it forward. So it's a big fact-finding mission, I would say. In terms of what I would then do is I mean, if I think back to one of my previous roles, we were receiving a lot of leads in from doing very little, which was incredible. I was like,
the dream, right?
Yeah, it was an absolute dream. When you then look at some of these things in more detail, it's like, wow, we're getting all these leads in, but were they quality leads, or are they the type of leads that we wanted? So one role I was in, I could see that 95% of leads were coming in from certain verticals. They also tended to be startups and scale-ups. Honestly, we didn't know if they were going to be around in 3 years' time, those businesses, and we didn't even know if they were going to have the money to pay. Yeah,
it's the problem with selling to startups, right?
Absolutely. I mean, but it's very exciting because that's where sometimes a lot of the innovation and disruption is happening.
Yeah.
But you have to have a mixed portfolio as well. So it's sometimes at that stage that I'll even look and think, right, we need to change the mix. We need to extend and have a few tracks running, and have introduced, then suggested and recommended that we introduce medium or enterprise businesses into the equation, because then you've got businesses that have been around 50 to 100 years. You have immediate brand halo if you sign one of those. So it'd be looking at that portfolio mix and then getting some of the foundations in terms of, looking at the value proposition, looking at the ideal customer profile, looking at and really I would say really bringing to life the ICPs, giving them a lot of personality, so everybody across the business understands those characters, those segments as real people almost. And then you get the whole of the organization, not just a few salespeople, really bought into what you're doing.
Okay.
In one of the roles I had, I definitely created very animated characters that everyone could buy into. And then the value proposition can spin out of the back of that, and then you can create your sales pitch.
Yeah, does that still happen? Because I remember I haven't done that for a while, but again, I haven't worked at another organisation for quite a while. Like, but when I remember first starting, they were like, make a buying persona. This is Jane from marketing, who is, you know, X age. This is what Jane's hobbies are. And I, like, when I first started, I was like, how much of this is actually relevant, and how much of this is actually, like, where does Jane hang out? I'm using Jane's my mum's name.
I'm mine.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
how much is just
how much is like just waffle, and how much
is just a checklist, and how much. I think if you're thinking like that, it's not being done correctly.
Right. Yeah.
That, because I know what you mean. I've been in those situations where it's almost just a bit of a naming exercise. But I've also done it where I become utterly immersed in the world, and it helps. They become anchors for everything that I do, and the sales messages that come off it, and knowing what the problems and pain points are going to be, and how to then go about doing research, or knowing how to find the right prospect list. I'm thinking specifically at a time in one of the businesses that I worked for, very early stage, I would say, which was around subscription management, and created characters like the super switchers, and which was around switching subscriptions all the time, and creating characters out of these. Can't remember what first name the super switcher had. I think they did all have first names.
Sarah the super switcher.
But it was I think it was relatively, it was new, and it was very specific. As soon as you start doing, I think, any kind of profiling that could apply to any business, that's when you've gone wrong.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, if you cover, you should be able to cover the brand over and still know, wow, this is about my business, my specific business.
For sure. And on that, you mentioned, just looping back to the first bit, because you also mentioned about like getting that Halo logo and then punching up, and we'll get to that part. But you mentioned coming in, talking to the founder, but also obviously talking to the customer. I've been in companies before as well, or it's very commonly known, like if a founder brings in a VP of sales or someone senior before they've actually figured out the value prop, it can completely kill the business, because obviously a VP of sales can typically be quite expensive for a small startup that's just starting. I guess I'm thinking real, like, tiny companies now. How do you know, if you were looking at a company that early on, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, if they've nailed their value proposition? Frame it another way. If you were applying for a job at a role and a company, and it's the founder hiring, is there any question you would ask that founder where it's like, hey, like, how do you sense check whether the value proposition, they've nailed it, or whether it's something else? If you have an answer to that.
Okay. I mean, I have been in these situations.
Sold the dream. The founders are great at selling dreams, aren't they?
Yeah. I've been in. I've understood that a business is at a certain stage. Yeah. And this is happening, and that's happening. There's a whole pipeline there. They're just ready. They just need a bit of a push to get them signed. You're going to make loads of money, and then got in, and it's like completely different scenario. Crickets. And you almost need to overhaul, or everything needs sort of fixing and sorting. And actually went into a business where there wasn't product market fit, but I did go in and bring that product market fit, which is brilliant. I mean, that's
the hardest skill, I think, to possibly do.
And it's such a great sense of achievement to be able to do that, because you're kind of rescuing the business, to be honest.
And was that from what you're talking about, like working with the customers, like you were the one actually just getting in the trenches? And
oh yeah, absolutely. You had to do what I said, which was, there's people already there that have been sitting there for a few years, sometimes a few years. Like the business I went that didn't have product market fit was a few years old by that point, and it had around 100 staff.
Okay, nice.
They've been focusing on another part of the business, but they needed this other half of the business because it was a two-sided platform or ecosystem. They needed the other half to win because only one had been moving forward. And really, you need to run them both in parallel because otherwise the other side, what I'm talking about here is actually there's a merchant side and there was a bank side to this. And the bank side had progressed somewhat, longer sales cycles. And then the other side hadn't progressed with it. So that was all the merchants that had subscriptions, subscription products like Netflix, Amazon, gym memberships, etc. That's the scenario I'm thinking of. And it did involve, again, fact-finding, investigating. It's usually quite obvious. Honestly, it hits you in the face.
When you join, or like, is there anything in the interview that can...
Not in the interview. Unfortunately, I don't have any secret nuggets because I'll probably come back to you on that. At a later stage in terms of what those nuggets might be.
I guess you could look at like maybe revenues of the company. It's like, hey, we've got all this pipeline, but actually, what are your revenues? If they're willing to give
there's
that.
only sometimes it depends how much is going to be shared with you.
Yeah.
And even then, those figures can be massaged.
No doubt, yes.
Yeah. I would say understanding, existing revenues, what's in the pipeline, what's already converted. If nothing has converted, then that's a good sign. But are they going to tell you that? I don't know. How long the deal cycles are, how many headcount is in there doing that role for, like how much headcount is there to actually produce that output?
Yeah.
And what is that output? But I would say even with the best line of questioning, sometimes it's very difficult to determine until you get in there.
Yeah. Well, you got to get lucky at some points, right? So you mentioned, again, I really like that term, like halo kind of clients, like that you build a case study and stuff over. When there is a size mismatch, right? So when you are kind of much smaller, I know you mentioned your Orange still a big company, but like bringing up all the other brands, but like if you're a smaller organization, how do you kind of punch upwards, like or appear to punch upwards, or where would you start? Or would you not even... Another question to add to that, and again free flowing around this topic, is at what point do you decide to punch upwards? Like, is it out of the gates and you're like, right, let's quickly secure a big enterprise out of the gates? Or would you recommend, like, let's build some momentum, get some mid-market small deals over the line?
Yeah, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that question, I would say.
Need another hour.
A lot of different components. Firstly, I don't think that large organizations buy from other large organizations necessarily, do they? They don't buy size. They're buying from... I also think that people buy from people. Like, two companies aren't buying from each other. It's a personal interaction, particularly in an enterprise sale. So
thank God that's still the case.
Yeah, well, just about
clinging on.
Person buying from person. So I think it's about leading with... Sometimes it's not even leading with the problem, it's leading with the solution. So preempting and knowing at a deep level what their problems are, and then very quickly following up with the solutions and making that seem something that they can trust and something that is low risk. So you would need to appear that obviously trustworthy and build credibility, and the way you do that is, I think, through integrity, doing what you're saying you're going to do, appearing professional. And then what I mean by lowering the risk is making sure that, the decision, if you're buying from a smaller, as you say, maybe it's a smaller company and there's no legacy that goes before it. If there's no legacy that goes before it, then it's about bringing your credibility to the table.
I think HubSpot have a crazy story where they used the first case study to get them to like 10, don't quote me, but like 10 million ARR. It was just the one case study from the one client, and they so the why is simple. I guess the when is like, when do you do that? The how is like, how would you do that? And the what is like, what, like tactics and motions, but I guess that comes last of like how you would do that.
Okay. Yeah, I've done a lot of work that's been centered around industry verticals, like certain verticals. And when I go into an organization, I'm putting myself on the line, right? And you want to know that whatever you're selling, you believe in and that's credible. So I think there's a point where, particularly if you're opening up your black book, which in enterprise and consultative selling, which is where I've spent quite a bit of my time, is you're putting yourself on the line. You want to know that what you've got is robust, credible, solid, and that you believe in it.
Yeah. I think that's actually huge. Like, I've also been in a company before where there's no belief in the actual product. So you've got like no gumption, if that's the right word for it, like behind, like no belief. Like if you know the product actually works, it completely changes the narrative of how you sell. Any
reservations that you have about it, you need to have that Q&A already landed. So anything that you know is on your mind, that you've got that Q&A, because they're going to ask those questions. So you want to have them off the bat, because if you don't, then you're going to be exposed. The way I've done this in the past is I talk a lot about sort of the tier one strategics brand and the sort of brand leaders or brand halo, like creating a brand halo effect, and then challenger brands. So when I've gone in to break into a new vertical, I will tend to go after the challenger brands first, because they tend to have more skin in the game.
Okay.
They are wanting to do something disruptive. They've got more of an innovation, more of a mandate for innovation, and they are the underdogs usually. So they've got a bit more of a fighting spirit, whereas the big guys on the top haven't got so much incentive to make radical changes or decisions or think about, new things necessarily. So those challenger brands, I always find far more open, willing, and work at a much more rapid pace, don't have the same decision-making gates that you would have in an enterprise or like a larger organization. Everything just moves more quickly, and I will get 2 or 3 of those, and then you're proving product market fit for one.
Yeah.
Then you're getting your data, you're getting your insights, you're getting your testimonials, and you're creating this narrative, and then you can take that to the big guys, and that's how I've tended to order it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to start the dialogue, by the way, at the same time, because by the time you've got in the door of the large one, you've already got the challenger
it'll take
brands.
Ages anyway. Yeah.
You've got the challenger brands up and running. So you kind of start it all at the same time, but the challengers are going to take off, and then it's a natural move to then approach the enterprise or the larger leading brands. And that's worked well for me.
I really like that advice. I think so. It might have changed. Well, it's the same concept, but like I was building a app or something, and I had he's a really successful guy, like mentor me, and he was like, it was to plug into like dating apps or something. It never went anywhere. But it was like, you don't want to go after the top 10. You want to go after the top 20 to 40, because they're the ones that are going to be wanting to like go. So it really kind of echoes that. And then okay, so the verticals is good. And then what did I have any more on the enterprise aspects of it? So just lastly on that then, what does it take to, as we kind of spoke about, and another question that I had while you were talking as well is, do you think, and this is more sales related, do you think a lot of salespeople always go, oh, you need to like really dig into the pain and emphasize the pain that they're having, or what keeps them up at night, or what's the painting the nirvana, all of this sort of stuff. I guess that's the solutions aspect to it, but it's more like all the sales advice that I hear is you've really got to dig into their pain and make them feel it now. How much of that do you think is overplayed, if you have any opinion on it, as opposed to what you're saying is like, no, they know their pain, they're a human, they don't, if you had a cut, I wouldn't want to be like putting salt in, I'll be like, here's a plaster, like I know what I need. Is that overplayed or not?
No, it's I've thought about this as well, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be a horrible person either, like to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you could get the pain wrong as well. You might actually, you might be focusing on the wrong pain, or you might be creating the wrong story, and then you're getting yourself off onto the wrong foot. I tend to lead with the solutions.
Yeah.
I talk about the solutions take up most of the time.
Right.
So if I've got a discovery call or a pitch, then I'm going to be talking about why they should trust me, like my credentials or the business credentials.
Yeah.
I'd be talking about briefly, succinctly what we do. I'd be talking about the problems that we think the industry has, or that we think they have. But most of my time is going to be spent on the solutions, and they will quite quickly tell you that once they see you've done the work, you've done your homework, even if you've got it wrong, you'll start to open up. They'll start to tell you things. They'll start to say, oh, well, yeah, but this is this. And, we don't really have a problem with CAC at the moment, but we do with this. And they'll start to drop hints, and you'll be like, oh, right, great. You'll start to shape, and you can start to shape your offer. You can start to shape things, and you know how you're going to counter propose. But you have to do the homework. You have to, even if it could be wrong. I think if you show you're leaning in and you're doing some work and you've taken time to prepare something, people have far more respect for you and trust in you to actually want to engage, rather than just really endless amounts of, navel gazing and questioning that can be quite intrusive. Like I've been on calls with other salespeople where they're just diving, they haven't got any relationship with the other person, the person that they're trying to sell to, and they'll ask some really sort of pertinent and delving internal business questions, and I don't think you can start with that, because the person's going to close down. They're going to they might not know the answer, or two, it might be very, very sensitive. So I tend to, it's obviously an acknowledgement, but it's not the focus.
I really like that. And I think actually that doesn't get enough airtime, where, you're not turning up for an interrogation kind of thing. It's like, no, you're going to earn their respect. And people want it. Like, if you've turned up and it's like, oh, Sam's really made an effort with some questions, and I keep going off script, you kind of, the person, whoever I'm talking to, wants to help or wants to kind of fill in the blanks, because they can see that you've done the effort, and vice versa. On the... another follow-on question. I should really bring a pen to these things, because I get a thought that goes through my head and then it just disappears. I'll come back to that. But then jumping forward again to the vertical approach, how much of it is, say you're doing well in one vertical and you want to branch into another, how much is market research, and then how much is execution? Like, is it analysis paralysis is the term? Like, people get like caught up in all the numbers and stuff and take ages. How long typically would you spend, and I guess it depends on the size of the organization, deciding on what the next vertical should be, or where we should expand into, versus just going for it? We're talking weeks, months?
Yeah, I mean, in the smaller organizations, it's probably days.
Fair enough.
I would say the amount of research time that's spent is less and less now due to AI, because AI can take a lot of the pain away and cut through a lot of that work. So it makes it you can get, output, insights and recommendations very quickly now that might spark you to think, right, I need to look at this. And it helps shift your experiences to look at different areas. I think that usually you've started to see, or I tend to see signs. I see signs, and then I join different dots together, and I'm like, oh.
Is that from research though, or from like
it's not necessarily research, it's market signals. It's market signals will all sort of, I don't know if it's because I've thought it, then I'm looking for it, and then I see it everywhere, and I'm like, there might be that. I would tend to pick adjacent verticals that have something in common, a very strong element that's in common with the vertical that has been a success. Or in some instances, I might have been working in a certain vertical and it hasn't quite landed for some reason. So I was doing a lot of work in the sports vertical at one time. And there was, I actually started off working with football clubs. And
Nice. My dream job, I think.
It was great fun, really great fun. But there were some challenges around the commercial model, in terms of they're very sponsorship orientated, and they don't want to buy anything. They just want to be sponsored. And I get that. It's because they've been in that world for a long time, and there's no driver currently to change that model. The value prop for football clubs for the product I was selling was incredible. It was brilliant. So I thought, well, what are the common elements of that? And it was really around community, supporters, fans. And so I took those components, and then looked for kind of adjacent verticals or companies that had that same characteristic, but without the challenge of, I want millions of pounds worth of sponsorship. Sure, and then I was able to break into that market. So it was kind of copy paste tweak type of scenario.
Which then condenses the research even more. So it literally is a case of
it's almost proven. It's almost partly proven. You know which bits are going to work.
Nice. Okay. In terms of we've talked about starting up, tackling those bigger clients, breaking into new verticals. The thing that always comes up from marketers, and to be honest, I am sick to death of it, that it's still even a question, but I've got a million solutions. I think it's different for every company, is that marketing and sales alignment piece, right? You speak to salespeople and they're like, and let's bracket marketing enablement up on one side and then sales on the other, like the people out in the field doing it. Just at a super high level, what, as you've been on both sides, and you probably see stuff now that you're taught in marketing for the 15 years, and then you go to sales and you're like, hold on a second, that doesn't help at all. And then, but vice versa, you've probably thought, oh, if marketing did this or that, it could really help. Where do you think the biggest waste of time is from, and I don't mean a waste of time, whatever, but inefficiency, shall we say, from the marketing and sales piece? Where does the communication break down? And then vice versa, where does it really work? Let's just start with that one. So another stat that I heard is 70% of all the, and this could, stats can be made up or whatever, but 70% of all the content marketing create never gets used. And then 30% of salespeople's time is personalizing the content marketing make, right? So content utilization, right, sort of thing. What do marketing currently do in organizations where you've worked, where you're like, okay, that's just not as effective as they think it is?
I think a lot of intelligence and learnings and legacy gets lost. So I've gone into organizations where things aren't being captured. The things that we've learned, the things that we can learn from, the things that we can glean something from and actually go on to improve how we pitch, the marketing materials we're creating, our sales cycle, why deals are being lost, so that we, and then actually having a response and answers to not repeating that. Yeah. A lot of that, I think that's where I've felt frustrations where none of that is looked at. It's just on to the next thing, without it really being captured.
Right. Okay.
It's funny that you say about the marketing or the material, that the time spent customizing materials. Yeah. Because I think that would be one of the things I'd have recommended is standardize as much as humanly possible. So 80% of everything is standardized.
Right. Yeah.
And then only about 20% is where you can personalize something.
Okay, yeah.
That would be my rule of thumb.
I think there's a lot of AI companies right now out trying to do that as well. It's hey, upload your deck, and if you want to just plant logos, it does that sort of stuff. Okay, alternatively, I guess you've kind of answered the question, how can marketing best support sales? And also, I don't know if you have an enablement experience, but in enablement especially now, there's so much technology that's coming out, or enablement training, whatever you want to call it, for sales teams. My view, more of my view here, and then comment if appropriate, is there's so much tools and technology that enablement and marketing think we need more content, more tools, more technology, and the salespeople are like, no, we just need more time in the field. Do you think that's the case? Like, do you think sales teams are asked to do? I don't know what the training setups and practice setups were in the organisation that you worked. Do you think that's happens too much?
Yeah, I think
Really?
I think that the amount of admin can really bog salespeople down, and
Really?
it's not necessarily where they want to be. They want to be out. They want to be with
making
people.
money.
Yeah, they absolutely do. You know, I've been in environments where there's CRM tools in place that are ineffective, so then something else is brought in, like a spreadsheet, to compensate
Whoa.
for the fact that the CRM tool doesn't do certain things.
Yeah.
And then you'll find there's another thing that's brought in to compensate for something that was supposed to be
And it could
at the core of the business.
all have been done on a spreadsheet.
Well, it could, yeah. Sometimes it can just be done on a spreadsheet, but it's not very effective. I think the other thing is where there's fragmentation. So one of my frustrations is entering things into HubSpot or Salesforce, but actually the rest of the organization who I want to know about my deals does not use or go into those tools.
Yeah.
So what I immediately do is set up a Slack channel for the entire organization if they want to go in to see exactly what's happening. I'm a big believer in transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the way that you can bring people on the journey, and sales is never, maybe some of the more transactional, low involvement sales are quite turnkey and could be done just with a salesperson if you've got incredibly slick processes. But when you're doing consultative selling, enterprise sales, it can be the whole organization or very many cross-functional teams actually getting behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would also go for transparency and communication.
Okay, and that makes a great segue into the next element, which is when we spoke, we talked about kind of that piece after the sell, which is like holding on to the client, retention. And I think that's more important than ever now, because I think getting new logos through the doors, everyone's battening down their budgets. When it comes to it wasn't really transparency, but like that handover process, and I don't know if you're in your organizations that does the person that closed the sale hold on to the client and manage them, or does it pass to customer success? I don't know.
I've been in both.
Yeah.
And I know what I prefer.
What do you prefer? Or you don't want to...
I prefer if you've closed the deal, you're then going on to manage, support that in terms of getting it out and delivered.
Okay, fully onboarding.
Yeah. And then at some point, probably, I mean, I have also managed in life, gone on to manage in life as well.
Okay.
But also handed over at that point. Where I've seen it go wrong, or observed this go wrong, is when somebody closes a deal and the deal's been closed because of that person, and the company or the buyer has bought from that person. It's a personal interaction, even though it's two companies, and they think they're getting that person. Then they're buying into that person, the quality of that person as well, and then the deal being signed, and then the seller no longer being in the equation and handed over to a delivery team.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Where are you? Like, where are they?" And feeling shortchanged.
It's accountability as well, isn't it? Because if you keep just passing them along, it's like marketing will just funnel leads through it. SDRs will funnel leads up to the AEs, and then it's like you're passing the buck on, and it's probably not an optimal client experience, is it?
I think the more consistency and the less people that can be interfacing with the buyer, the better.
Yeah.
Just for transparency and consistency, and once they've built a relationship, it flies. Counteracting that, what I would say, whenever I am working on a deal and it's a big prospect,
yeah,
and I say this to my team as well, I always bring in, so if my reporting line is the CEO. I'll make sure that prospect meets the CEO ASAP, because even though it might be all rosy and shiny and things might be moving along really nicely, there could be a point in the future where there is a block or there is a problem or it does fall down. And if there's already been an interaction with somebody else, the CEO or something like that, when they do have to meet again, it's not like, oh, and now, the CEO has been wheeled in and it's all very, stiff and awkward. There's already been that interaction, there's already that relationship. So I always encourage my team to do that as well. So there's another person in the wings.
Yeah, and then it doesn't feel it's almost
it's more authentic.
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
it takes the sharpness off whatever the transition is. Amazing. Right. Okay. I'm gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna end with some community questions. Are you okay for this?
I don't know what that means.
Just some questions that have come in from others that we've collected.
Okay.
The first is from Nadia Davis. So all of this is opinion. She works at Caliber Mind. She goes AI SDRs, or like AI personalized outreach. What are your thoughts on it? Where do you think it's going?
I've read a few cases now where they've been brought, AI SDRs have been brought in, and a team of 12 SDRs has been exited out of the building, I think, and it seems to be working. I think it very much depends on the nature of the business and the value proposition.
Right.
I haven't been involved in it, but I would definitely be interested to explore it more. I think there's going to be pros and cons, but I am very much for the more you can standardize things, the more you can take, the more you can kind of take the grunt work out of things, the more you can actually focus on the big, exciting, difficult, left field, firefighting type activity.
For sure. Yeah.
So I would say, at first glance, despite the fact that I would feel quite sad that teams of 12 are being displaced.
Yeah.
If I put that aside and have my business head on, and the business is one that is, even if you're structuring those AI agents, whatever's being used, these AI agents, even in a complex business, you could work it so that the agents could actually manage it. So I'm pro it at first glance.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested.
I'm sensing you're not.
No, well, they'll. Again, I'm all for people having jobs for sure. I see.
They can get promoted to become the account managers or sales execs.
100%, which I think is where everyone wants to be at. It's just like a sixth sense for demand base, and like, hey, it's not just these two. It's like when everyone starts fighting with the same signals, it's like you get into the sea of sameness. So it's
that's different. Yeah, that's a different. Yes, absolutely with you on that. And when everything's generic, everything's the same.
And it's like it brought up everyone's ability to write a good email or what good looks like. But it depends if these AI signals will. And this is just in my opinion, because I think about this a lot, because I've built my career basically off the spray and pray days sort of stuff, of how much can it differentiate itself from other people. But yeah, I'm not.
When I was thinking about, when I was answering your question, I was thinking about filtering, the filtering of things. So things are coming in, or prospects, leads are coming in, and you're filtering. And if it's a filtering exercise, it's quite an internal exercise. When it's push communications, going external, it is more nuanced and it is more subtle. And I receive every day into my LinkedIn inbox some very interesting emails that have obviously been automatically generated with brackets or with somebody else's name in, either brackets where my name should be or somebody else's name in there, or repeat names in there, and you're just like, oh gosh.
Yeah, it's almost like the goal now is not to sound like AI to get the job done. Zane, how long we got? A couple minutes?
Yeah, you have a couple minutes.
All right, sound awesome. Let's just check in. Use just countdown timer. Okay, cool. We'll jump to Ali's question. So Ali Miller, VP of Sales at Content Square. He asked, he actually kind of asked two questions. He said, how do you use AI to make things feel more personal, which is actually what we just spoke about. And then the second part of his question is, what signals do you rely on So for example, for like personalizing outreach, and again, it will depend on what company you work at, I guess, is what relevant signals. He means like job changes, or like, I don't know if there's any like little hacks that have worked for you like last year.
I mean, tools like Sales Navigator, etc., are good at picking up these different flags and following those. I think I follow, if I know that I want to reach out or break into a certain business, I'll be following those people for quite a while, getting under the skin of them.
Yeah.
I'll be going to events that they're going to sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't bear
full stalker mode. No,
yeah. Well, full genuine.
Showing you care,
I'm a genuine stalker.
Yeah.
I it's done with, with genuine interest.
Yeah.
And I can't bear the thought of just, messaging someone and then expecting them to reply. I have heard from some people I've been working with recently that they're saying, "Oh, but Erica, why are people not replying to me?" Just because you email them out of the blue does not give you the entitlement to receive a response back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the sort of person that tries to respond to as many things as possible because I receive so much, and so I know what it's like not to be responded to. So
It's a tough one. I don't have an answer to that as well, but I really like what you said there about following individuals, and in terms of engagement, if you have got the medium or long-term game in mind, you can like comment on the post or like the post, like genuinely care, as opposed to
it has to be genuine. It has to be genuine. That's where the whole thing around the potential fakeness of AI creeps in. You need somebody to have genuine interest in others.
Right, last question, and then we will. Who am I going to pick? I'll pick Rohit's question because I spoke to him yesterday. He's over at Maverick Systems. It's quite a hard question as well to end on. I don't know. Relax, it's all good. What customer problems? Oh, I'm moving the mic now. Do you see being the biggest revenue opportunities? And I haven't even had a chance to think about this myself. Coming up, so. Such a macro question as well. Like,
what customer problems
do you see being a good like solution selling opportunities? I guess with such a shift of how companies are operating.
I'm not sure. What customer problems do you think are going to be the most revenue generating?
In like in the next 1 to 2 years.
I mean, I have got one, but that's a whole other podcast, and that's
it
is.
That's how you want to go.
Yeah, it is. It's looking at any verticals that have not already been through digital transformation, and there are some.
Yeah.
That will be one.
And that's where the money is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it maybe it's not, because maybe people haven't been there for some very obvious reasons, like it's really, really hard. That's why it's been left till last. Anything that is anything that's making life easier. I mean, I don't see why it's going to be any different. If you talk about which verticals are really bubbling up that are really interesting, I think there's going to be a lot of developments and changes in health, wealth, and education that are very exciting. And things like mobility and energy are kind of already here, to be honest. But health, wealth, and education all really excite me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to think more deeply into that as well. Erica, thank you. Yeah, I think we'll call it there because I think we're almost on time. All good there? Yeah, nice.
Thanks
very much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome.